All right. So if I can ask that people just mute and turn off the videos as usual, that would be good. Happy to take uh, questions as we go or leave them to the end. Doesn't really worry me either way, but let's see how we go. Okay. So the theme at this seminar in Broken Hill, um, well, it wasn't really a theme as such, but I figured that because it was being held in Broken Hill, and me being a mineral person rather than a mining history person, that I could do something on type locality minerals, which there are a few. And so it went down quite well. We did have a couple of people in the audience that were um, Broken Hill, sorry, that are mineral collectors or mineral interested in minerals. But the vast majority were mining history people, but everybody seemed to enjoy it, which is good. So we'll get on to it. If I'm going to, there we go. My mouse isn't working to move forward, so I'll have to use the keyboard. Okay, so you know about me anyway, but just to cover it off, a lot of people here didn't know me. I've been collecting for more than 40 years now. I do have a bit of a soft spot for Broken Hill minerals. As you'd know, I do draw and paint minerals. I'm a micro mineral photographer and also publish, obviously, my monthly magazine and so on. But that was for the people that didn't know. And that's a reticulated cerussite that I painted a few years ago. So the first thing I did, because of the audience, was said, I need to tell you what a type locality mineral is. And the general, the term for that is the mineral first described and recognised as a new species from a specific geographic location. And Broken Hill has 26 type locality minerals, which is, it probably would have been a lot more had Broken Hill been discovered 50 years before it actually was, because of the number of minerals that are there. So we're going to go through, starting off with the earliest discoveries. Then there's a very quiet period for a fairly long period of time. And then there was a fairly recent surge from the sort of 80s onwards. And then we're going to look at the minerals, who discovered them, and some of the stories behind it. First thing we need to do is to just have a look at the number of new species by decade. Broken Hill was discovered, I think, in 1892. So the first decade, 2 decades, there were 4 new minerals that were found. And you can see that circle down on the bottom there. Then there was a big gap through to the 1960s, and there were 2 minerals found, discovered then. 2 more in the 1980s, and then from the 1990s through to the present time, a lot more. And there's lots of reasons for that, which we'll cover a bit later. So the first of them, and I'm doing it in chronological order, first of them was marshite, and that was discovered very early on. It's a fairly basic copper iodide mineral, but a very interesting one as well. So it was named by Liversidge, and Liversidge produced a book called The Minerals of Broken Hill just before Broken Hill was discovered. So again, another book that probably would have been twice as big had it been done 10 years later. And he named it after an Australian called Charles Marsh, who was the first one that actually described the mineral. And that's quite unusual these days with mineral discoveries. Normally, the person that first describes the mineral isn't necessarily the one it gets named after. But in this case, I suppose it was, 30 odd years ago. No, more than, yeah, about that. Anyway, marshite is colourless or pale, very pale yellow when it's fresh, but it darkens over time to a brownish red or reddish brown, probably brownish red. And it has a very strong red fluorescence, which is very unusual for a copper mineral. Copper normally quenches fluorescence and stops it from happening. And this is one that obviously hasn't changed very much. It's quite a nice yellow colour. Also have to say, you'll see chemical compositions, just go back on there, chemical compositions, and also the width of view of the photos as we go through. And then we have marshite and long wave ultraviolet. And you can see here that it's very bright red response. Marshite was a mineral that was exceedingly rare for collectors when I first started collecting, and was like that for quite a long time. But then the advent of the UV torches, like the convoy, whatever it is.
Convoy.
Convoy, it is Convoy.
Yeah, Convoy.
So I'd forgotten what it was called then. The people now go around mineral shows in Australia and they take one of those with them. And because they're so powerful a light, the marshite shows up even in sort of normal daylight conditions. And so people were finding that there were a lot more specimens around than they actually thought. Sometimes it's very difficult, even after you've seen the response, it can be very difficult to pick the crystals, but I've certainly found that it's in a lot of specimens that I didn't know it was previously. The next mineral that occurred was williamite, and that's a cobalt antimony sulfide, and it's named for the Williama township, which was the original Aboriginal name for Broken Hill. And it's a metallic tin white steel grey mineral. Now I don't actually have, do I have a photo of it? Yes, I do. It's a Peter Hall specimen. I don't actually have a specimen of williamite in my collection, and it is very similar visually to a few other minerals, which is probably why it's a bit hard to sort of come by, because unless you analyse some of these things, you just don't know what you've got. Then with marshite, the other classic type locality mineral for most collectors, and certainly for me, is raspite. And this was described a few years later. It's the can't think of the word, polymorph of stolzite. And stolzite is very common in or was very common in the Broken Hill ores as well, and the oxide zone. And it was named for Charles Rasp, who discovered the Broken Hill deposit. He thought he'd discovered a tin deposit, not a silver lead deposit, but he certainly did quite well out of it. And the photo that you can see on the right-hand side there of Rasp, it says public domain image underneath, which it is, but I actually got AI to help clean it up to have it as a presentable image rather than the blurry one that is normally around. And it still looks like him, which is good. It's impressive. And then raspite are the long prismatic crystals. They're usually an orange-brown, sometimes a reddish colour. And the last one of this pioneering era was meersite, which is another iodide mineral. In this case, it's got silver as well as copper, and it does not fluoresce. And that was named after Henry Mears. And can be a little bit of a challenge to distinguish from some of the other halides as well. As you can see here, it's this crystal down the bottom corner. Tetrahedral crystals, often usually yellowish, almost always associated with malachite or cuprite, or both. But yeah, as I said, it doesn't fluoresce. In fact, I have one specimen that looks like a meersite, but it fluoresces. It's actually a marshite, and it was labelled as meersite by a very knowledgeable collector at the time. All right, so we jump forward. We miss all of these decades here, and there was no new minerals that were discovered at Broken Hill. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. The first one is that the focus was on the ore being processed rather than being sort of scientifically looked at. There were still mineral specimens that were collected during this period of time, predominantly by miners who, because there were so many of these beautiful, big, particularly big crystals and groups. I think the mines, whether they sort of turned a blind eye or not, I don't know, but there was certainly a lot of minerals that still came out over that period of time. But there was a need for the metals, particularly during the two world wars that this period covers, and the Great Depression in the 20s, that diverted a lot of resources away from the sort of scientific side of it. So during that period, we did have costobite, which was another cobalt antimony sulfide. I mentioned that Williamite is quite hard to pick. This one is as well, and this one was actually discovered on a Williamite specimen, which is interesting. They were testing it. They'd found another new mineral. I think it was Canadians that did it. Yeah, Canada. Canadians that were doing the analysis, and they found another new mineral, and they wanted to check for that on other specimens. So they got hold of a piece of Williamite and tested that, and then found this other mineral was there, which is a paramorph of Williamite. And another one that was found in that same period of time is paradochrosite. If I'm saying that, paradochrosite, I think it's probably a reasonable pronunciation, not 100% sure. Again, very hard to pick because it's silver white and it's metallic, and it occurs also with the other similar minerals. And as you can see, there were no photos of either of those. I don't think I've ever seen one. Now, what I've called the modern Renaissance was the surge of discovery starting back in the 1980s. And that was due to advancements in the techniques to analyse the minerals, increased collaboration between collectors, museums and universities. So we had people like Arnold van der Heyden, who was a geologist at Broken Hill, who had an interest in minerals, and he collaborated with people like Bill Birch at the Museum Victoria and others. And he had a good eye for picking things that looked a bit different. And of course, he was able to get the museums and the university people and the mineral societies in New South Wales and Victoria in particular, get them access to things like the Blackwood open cut, the Kintore open cut, the Block 14 open cut. And a lot of collectors also then got involved and started finding things as well. And yeah, you had dedicated individuals and groups focusing very specifically on Broken Hill. So the first one that was found was ecandrusite, and described by Bill Birch and a couple of others. And it was actually, it was interesting. I was talking to Bill Birch at one stage, and we're talking about mineral names and pronunciation. And I said to him, shouldn't this be pronounced E.C. Andrewsite? Because it was named after Ernest Clayton Andrews, E.C. Andrews. And he said, yeah, probably, you're probably right, but it's too hard to say. So it's ecandrusite. It's a zinc titanium oxide, and again, another one that is very hard to identify because it occurs as tiny black or brown inclusions in quartz. And it's from the Melbourne Rockwall mine, which is off the main line of lode. And in this particular specimen here, and this is an analysed specimen, these little black dots are the ecandrusite. So very, very tiny. As you can see, that's 11.5 millimeters across. So these things are way, way, way small. Morbiite was the next one to be described, and this is the first of a number of minerals that are in an interesting sort of multiple series where you've got arsenates, phosphates, and sulfates that sort of fit in this area here. And you'll see a few other chemical formulas coming up soon that are quite similar to this one as well. So this was named for Maurice Morby, and he was really well known in the mining industry, particularly from Broken Hill perspective. And morbiite is a dimorph of carmenite, I believe. And again, can be quite difficult to pick up. A lot of these ones, these types of minerals are very, very similar visually. So if we have a look at morbiite, morbiite is this sort of dark reddish mineral here. And you can see a bit of the carmenite coloration in there. The green mineral is most likely signetite, but we'll come on to that one shortly. Then we had a very odd one, bernalite, which is an iron hydroxide. So you've got all of these really interesting chemical mixes at Broken Hill and all these spectacular minerals. And then off on the side, you've got an iron hydroxide that gets picked up. And it's basically a green coating, if you like. And only because there were so many people looking at the material from Broken Hill was this actually picked up. And it was named after John Desmond Burnell, who was a chemist over in the UK, and I think also a member of the Communist Party from memory. A very interesting character if you want to read up on him sort of separately to this talk. Don't have an image of that either. Now, segnetite was the next one. We saw a bit of segnetite on the morbiite specimen. This, you can see here, still got the iron and the lead in the formula, and it's got the arsenic, but then it's got some other stuff happening down this side, and named after Ralph Segnet. Ralph was quite a well-known mineralogist in Australia. I got to meet him a few times back in the late 1980s, early 1990s when I first got interested in minerals. And he would do presentations at the Victorian Mineralogical Society. And then when I think I was still living, no, I think I was living in Tasmania at the time, and I was back in Melbourne doing some work, as I did, and I went to a bookshop one lunchtime and happened to find a whole heap of mineralogical magazines from the 1960s. And some of them have really quite interesting articles in them. I ended up buying a few, but they obviously had come out of Ralph Segnet's library, personal library, because quite a few of them had his name on the front. And so I thought it was quite a nice little thing to tie into the description. But again, segnetite, greenish to yellowish brown crystals. There's a lot of those, a lot of minerals with that same description at Broken Hill. And this one is the green, bit different to the one we saw with the morbiite, but in this particular instance with carmenite rather than the morbiite. Kintorite is another one that's got the lead iron at this end, but this one's got phosphate rather than arsenate. So it'd be the phosphate analogue of segnetite. And named for the Kintor open cut, but also with the block 14. So it's found in both, but named after Kintor. And I suppose Kintorite sounds a bit better than Kintor block 14 openite or something like that. Now this one, cream to yellowish green and brownish yellow crystals. You're seeing a bit of a theme here. And that's down the bottom of the Kintor open cut. That would have been back in the probably early 90s, I think. And looks quite similar to the segnetite that we saw before. Then we have a couple of unusual ones, a couple of copper acetate minerals. The first one of those is hoganite, named after Graham Hogan. And this one is as bluish green crystals, and it's a copper acetate that is easy to create. So if you see hoganite specimens for sale and they say that they are naturally occurring, doubt it, because the vast majority of them are not naturally occurring. Beautiful mineral, but not naturally occurring. The original occurrence was at the Potosi mine, which is the north end of the Block Hill series. And I think the initial discussion was that it might have been leaf litter or something like that that had got down into the copper zone and provided what was needed to create this copper acetate. It's a bit of an odd one. But that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like when it's brand spanking new. So this is cerussite with malachite, and the blue mineral here is all hoganite. I had a look at this specimen. I was going to retake the photo. I had a look at it before I did the talk in September. And a lot of these crystals have gone slightly opaque, so they alter as well. And the other one out of the two acetates is paysite, described around about the same time. And this one's got a bit of calcium in it as well, and named after Frank Pace, who's a very nice gentleman. I've actually met him up at Broken Hill a couple of times. And interestingly, he gave me a hoganite, but he didn't have any paysite. But I think the hoganite that he gave me was supposedly natural, but I doubt it. And we've mentioned Bill Birch a couple of times. He's certainly been involved in Broken Hill a lot. He's one of the authors or co-authors, or editor in one case, of the Minerals of Broken Hill book, and a very knowledgeable person. Sort of retired now from the museum and Victoria Museum in Melbourne, but also sort of not, as happens. And the mineral that was named after Bill is a cadmium copper phosphate with sulfate. Comes as pale blue crystal groups, and this is another one like the segnetite and the green crystals, where some of them look similar. There's a number of cadmium minerals that have been discovered in recent years from Broken Hill that are also very similar to one another as well, where they had the same coloration, same pale blue. And the birchite is these very pale blue sprays here and here, very rare mineral. With a college, it got his name attached to a mineral from Broken Hill as well. He's based in Austria, and he spent a bit of time in Australia in the early 2000s. I got to meet him a couple of times, and again, his is described, colloidite is described as yellowish green crystals, but they require XRD to distinguish from related minerals such as segnetite. And again, you can see the lead and iron with a bit of zinc in it, and another arsenate. I possibly have a colloidite in my collection, but I'm not going to XRD every specimen of segnetite to find out whether I've got one or not. The next one, niholmite, another cadmium mineral. This time as white globules rather than pale blue, and named after Ronald S. Nyholm, who I don't know a lot about other than what's written there. Plimerite, Ian Plimer is a well-known Broken Hill personality. Doesn't live in Broken Hill, but he certainly spends a lot of time in Broken Hill. And another one of the phosphates, this time zinc and iron rather than lead. And it occurs as pale green to dark olive green or almost black crystals. It can be very difficult to distinguish from rockbridgeite visually. And you can see here that the dark mineral here is the plimerite, and it's got lobethanite as these green minerals here, and a few other phosphates in there as well, which would be probably fairly hard to fully identify, but that might be little pyromorphites, or hoppered ones perhaps, but there could be hinstallite or other things in there as well. Another one of the challenges of Broken Hill minerals is you can get a whole orchard of them on one specimen sometimes. And we then jump forward to 2010. We've got Edwardsite, named after Austin Burton Edwards, who is a really well-known mineralogist in Australia, but there are no images of him anywhere that I could find. I felt sure that there would be a photo of him somewhere, but no. So what we've got instead is we've got the A.B. Edwards Medal, which is awarded each year by the Geological Society of Australia for the best paper on aspects of economic geology published in the Australian Journal of Earth Sciences. Another cadmium mineral has tiny blue-green crystals. And that one is a Brent Thorne specimen. Brent has improved his photography in more recent years, but it's the only one that I could actually get a photo of, and it's used with his permission, of course. Then we have Liversidge. We mentioned Liversidge a bit earlier on. So he produced this book, The Minerals of New South Wales, and another zinc phosphate was named after him in 2010, and colourless or white thin-bladed crystals. Again, look at any Broken Hill oxidized zone mineral specimen, and you're probably going to see colour or white thin-bladed crystals, but for the most part, they're probably going to be either sericite or hemimorphite or something along those lines. So how they actually found this one and why it looks so different, I don't know. Interesting sidebar story about the book itself. I think before I moved to Tasmania, or maybe just after, I went to Broken Hill on a MinSoc field trip, and there was a bookshop in Broken Hill, just happened to have a copy of this particular copy of The Minerals of New South Wales, which I snapped up very quickly, and had a few jealous people at that were on the field trip as well, because a lot of people were looking for it at the time. Now you can get it online. You can get a digital copy online. But I still like the old one, physical book. And then we have more recently Aldridgeite, and Teddy Aldridge was an amateur mineralogist, and he ran a pub in Broken Hill, hence the Broken Hill Lager is the photo. And he used to exchange minerals for beer with the miners. So he built up a very significant collection over a period of time by paying for mineral specimens from the miners with a beer or two. But again, pale blue sprays, it's another cadmium mineral. Peter Elliott has done a lot of the analysis of the Broken Hill stuff over the years, and he has an amazing set of eyes. He can look at a specimen and go, oh, that's a bit different, and then analyse it and find out it's a brand new mineral. Anyway, Aldridgeite is this pale blue here, so it looks a bit like birchite to a degree, a little bit like auricalcite. It's another one that it's just going to be that specific blue that looks a bit different to the other more common minerals. And of course it occurs with smithsonite. This is smithsonite crystal here. So where you've got smithsonite, you've often got auricalcite. And then we have Yankawinaite, which is another arsenate. So lead, copper, aluminium arsenate as yellow-green aggregates and crusts. Okay, I've got lots of yellow-green aggregates and crusts. I have no idea if any of them fit that particular chemical formula. Yankawina was the original county that included Broken Hill within it, and it was named after that particular county. In 2017, we had one that's thrown a lot of spanners into the works. We had ferrorhodonite described in Europe Here there were 12 authors on the paper, and it's got a certain amount of iron in it, giving it the ferro naming. And visually, it looks like rhodonite. And a friend of mine, Ralph Bottrell, who some of you would know, Ralph lived and worked in Broken Hill for a number of years, and he analysed many rhodonites over that period of time, probably around about 100, he reckons. And he's pretty sure that pretty well every single one of them would have, if it was done now, would have been ferro-rhodonite, not rhodonite. And so at Broken Hill in particular, the vast majority of rhodonites are probably not rhodonite, which is quite weird. That one supposedly is a rhodonite, but I have no idea now whether it is or not. It's probably a little bit more red than the ferrorhodonite that I've seen, but to analyse it is the only way you're going to find out. And this is an actual ferrorhodonite that's been analysed that came out of the initial work done by the people that described it. And you can see that one is much browner, but that might just be that specimen. So I don't know. We have sidraite. I think it's Sidra, named after Oleg blah 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 Sidra from Russia, and it's another iodine bearing mineral, and this was found on a specimen at the Natural History Museum in London. You can see Mike Rumsey's the primary author there, and it's yellow, but only known from one single specimen. So that particular formula doesn't look that complex. There should be more, but with this as the description, yellow, who knows? There could be more of them out there. And Arnold van der Heyden, that I mentioned before, finally got his name attached to a mineral as well, van der Heydenite. Peter Elliott involved with that one. Again, one with phosphates and sulfate ions in there. Arnold was very key person in helping put Broken Hill minerals on the map, smaller Broken Hill minerals in particular. And again, the description, aggregates of colourless crystals. Okay, who knows? And then more recently again, Hodge-Smithite, a copper zinc sulfate, and Thomas Hodge-Smith, who was named after, was at the Australian Museum in Sydney. And again, aggregates of green crystals. Peter Elliott sees these things differently to mere humans, I'm sure. But that's a John Haupt specimen. That's what that one looks like. I don't think I've seen anything that looks quite that sort of colour from Broken Hill, so that might be one that if you did see, there's a good chance you've got a Hodge-Smithite. Then we have cardite, and we mentioned the metal before for A.B. Edwards. This one is another medal that is awarded this time by the Royal Society of New South Wales, and he was a recipient of that in 1935. It's another person, George Card, another person that there are no photos of, which is a bit unfortunate, but there you go. And this is another one by Peter Elliott, zinc arsenate, white to pinkish white and pale tan crystals. Haven't seen it, don't know. And then we have one which is sort of a bit of a, I've called it an outlier. We have, you deserve to have a Broken Hillite at Broken Hill. And in 1987, there was a Broken Hillite described, but it was then thought to be a new member of the pyrosmolite group, but it's not. And so it was discredited, which is unfortunate, but that's what it looks like. So just to conclude, Broken Hill has in the past been a mecca for mineral collectors, and it's come out with some pretty spectacular minerals. Big ones, small ones, rare ones, common ones, whole range. There's certainly well over 330 mineral species recorded, and we've seen quite a few of the 26 type locality species in this presentation. There is potential for ongoing discovery of new species, but probably not to the same extent, because the current mining operations there are almost hands-free. So ore is removed from underground, the area is shotcreted, and it goes through the crusher. And basically, it's hardly seen or touched by humans in that process now. There is some potential in the Pinnacles mine, which is 20 odd kilometers, whatever it is, southwest of Broken Hill. It's a Broken Hill style locality that has been mined for a number of years in a fairly small way. And sometimes you'll see mineral specimens where it'll say Pinnacles Mine, Broken Hill, and they were specimens collected on dumps of Broken Hill material from the Kintore and the Block 14 open cuts that were taken down to the Pinnacles Mine for processing. So they're not actually from the Pinnacles mine. But one of the guys that was speaking at the conference he works for one of the mining companies there, and they have just been recently drilling at the Pinnacles, and they're finding quite a reasonable sized oxidized zone, which is excellent. And because it's very similar to Broken Hill ore body, there is potential for more minerals to be found from that locality that are sort of Broken Hill-like, if you like. So we have to watch this space for that one. And then just finish off with another rasbite specimen, and if anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to take them. I'll stop sharing.
I love it.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I love this one because I have quite a collection.
Lots of different new names for me there.
Yes.
Sorry, Henk, you're saying?
I love this one because I have quite a collection from Broken Hill, which I got from Peter Elliott. So
Yes.
I met him when I was in Australia, and he's a very nice guy. But he's a phenomenon.
Yes.
Because he sees something and then okay, I know. And,
he's
collection is great. Yeah.
He's got the eyes for it, and he's got the ability to undertake testing as well. So it's best of both worlds, I think. But yeah,
and I also have a few of these marshites, birdshite. So it's quite a collection through there.
Yeah.
But also some of these type locality things. Yeah.
So I'd be interested if you've got any of the ones that I didn't have photos of, Henk.
Check out my website.
Yeah, I don't think I saw any there. I don't think I saw any. But
yeah, well, then you should give me a list.
Yeah, it's when you've got some of those descriptions, and you just no way you're going to be able to locate them unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So, all right. Any other questions or comments?
Just a remark. My wife and I visited the Natural History Museum in Vienna on our trip.
Oh, okay.
Meet Uwe. We didn't meet Uwe though.
Yeah. No, he's a nice guy. He's very knowledgeable as well. So.
The Vienna Museum the Natural History Museum in Vienna actually has the type locality specimen of marshite. So if you go there, you can ask to see it.
Wow.
All right.
I did not know that. Thanks, Ed.
That's Professor von Schummermann, I think. He collected it from Edward Aldridge. those in England, if you go to the Natural History Museum there, if you go there and ask for specimens from the Dixon collection, they hold 6 of them. They were sent there in 1912 to an exhibition, about 400 specimens. A few years ago, they decided to return them, and we've got them down at Londonderry, and they're basically all from Edward Aldridge's collection at Broken Hill.
Nice.
It's good to know. Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions/comments, we'll finish up for the day and reconvene back in February.
Right.
Wish you all a very happy
do you
Christmas
make
and a happy New Year.
Absolutely.
See you all next year.
Wait. Richard, are you going to make a schedule for next year? The dates, I mean.
Yes, they're coming
Sorry,
after
Steve.
Christmas.
Sorry, Steve.
I thought, who are you talking to, Hink?
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve. Yeah. Richard, Martin is confusing me. No, Steve, of course. Would you make an agenda for next year?
Yeah, so over the next few weeks, I'll set up a new series, and I'll redo the web page, so we've got a placeholder for each one, and then if there's a particular month that you want to pick for something, then you'll know which day. So yeah, I'll do that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And good luck with your eyes. Huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Arlene too. So
Yeah, Arlene as well, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
See you all in the new year then.
Okay.
See you next year.
See you then.
Be good.
Happy
Bye.
New Year.